Hi everyone, it's Amy Gable Stitcher here with a stitching update video. It is mid-May 2022. Last time I shared my stitching with you, it was January of 2022. In my mind, it's like March of 2022. I'm not sure how it's been 4 months, especially when I look at my pile of stitching that I have to show you. I've stitched a lot. I have some finishes. I have some fully finished items to show you. I have so many WIPs, we could almost call it a WIP parade, but most of them are new starts. So a new start parade? Regardless, it's a lot. I am going to put some timestamps down in the description box below so you can click on them to get to the part of the video that you would like, because it's probably going to be long. You know how long it is. I don't, because I'm at the beginning and you can see the timestamp at the end. But regardless, grab some stitching, grab something to drink, and let's chat. Let's visit, chat, and let's show and tell. Yeah, lots of stitching, not much time to make videos. My oldest is graduating in like 2 weeks. So this year has been, let's do all the high school things that we haven't been able to do for the last 2 years, compressed into like 6 months. So a little bit of a lull right now because we had prom this past weekend and graduation's not for a few more weeks. Exams are done, college is picked, and yeah, it's been a whirlwind. Like I said, I've carved out time for stitching, not for filming. And you're not here to hear about that, you're here to see the stitching. So let's get started. I am going to just give you a little overview of what I am going to talk about and what will probably appear in the timestamps below. So this is for me as well as you. I am going to do Stitchy Kindness first because I received a couple of gorgeous gifts. I am going to do my fully finished objects, or FFOs, second. Third, I am going to show you my finished cross stitch. There's 3 finished cross stitch items. I'm going to show you all 3, but at the very end, I'm going to give you a more detailed description of one of them. And I will explain that when we get there. And then I am going to show you the mountain of WIPs and new starts. So let's get started. Stitchy Kindness. I have so many good cross stitch friends. I'm very, very lucky and blessed. So I have lots of great local friends I have met cross stitching and I get to stitch with on a fairly regular basis. And I have lots of long distance cross stitch friends that I have met and gotten to stitch with over the past few years on Zoom. And 2 of those people sent me gifts that really touched my heart. One of them I'm going to show you. This is a little blackbird pillow. It says peace. I think this was in one of the Christmas ornament books. This is from my friend Shelly, who is on Flosstube, and her channel is It's Only Stitching. I will link her below. So she was at an L&S a few months ago and said they had some R&R 40 count fabric there. And did I want her to pick it up for me? Yes, please. So she did. I said, just let me know how much to Venmo you or send you in a gift card. And she mailed me the fabric and mailed me this beautiful pillow too. So it's gorgeous. Thank you so much, Shelly. And now that I've showed it, I can display it and I really love it. So Shelly is Only Stitching and I will link her below. So once again, just so pretty. I love the colors that she changed this to. Second Stitchy Kindness item is from my friend Angela, who is not on Flosstube, but she's on Instagram and she is Food and Yarn on Instagram. She is an amazing knitter. She is a fantastic cook. I would love to have her cook me a meal. And she is an amazing cross stitcher as well. And we've gotten to know each other really well over Zooms this pandemic. And she sent me a couple of knitted items that like seriously made me cry when I opened them up. So thank you, Angela. So the first one, I think this might be actually for Phoebe. So you let me know, Angela, because once again, I haven't shown it, so we haven't used it. Look at this gorgeous scarf. Like her knitting is exquisite. I'm gonna put it on. Love it. Gorgeous rust color. Beautiful, beautiful. I can't knit. Like I have tried and I can't do it. My youngest daughter, Phoebe, is an amazing knitter. So her and Angela can knit, and Angela and I can stitch, and Angela and my friend Abby can cook together. So Angela has the trifecta. This one made me cry when I opened it. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous shawl. Can you see the sparkles in there? Look at that stitching and that pattern. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful. I know it was made with love. And Angela, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I'm just gonna double this up so I can show it. It's a beautiful, beautiful shawl. Gorgeous. Thank you so, so much. I love them and I will cherish them forever. Third Stitchy Kindness item is something that I have a nice finish now. My friend Helen D, who I'm sure everybody knows because it's Helen D, saw my floss tube where I stitched this Santa and left myself no margin. And she said, send it to me and I will finish it into an ornament for you. And she did. And how adorable did that come out? This is a Prairie Schooler Santa. It's from an older book that was just actually reprinted. And these Santas are adorable because they're not too big to stitch. And she finished that for me. Look at that little bell. It is so cute. I saw Helen a couple of weeks ago at a little Frugal Yankee gathering, and we had never met in person before, which is just so funny because we've chatted quite a bit over the last few years, but we never met. And it was so nice to finally meet her and meet her sister and some of the other maniacs. And she gave me this. So I will link Helen's channel below, although I'm sure that nobody actually needs it because everybody watches and loves Helen, but I will link her below as well. So thank you, Helen. Love it. And I cannot wait to put this on my tree. But this and the little peace pillow are going to be out until Christmas anyways, because every time I look at them, I smile. On to next, we are going to do fully finished objects. So I did a little bit of framing the past couple of months. It was actually, I think it was like right after I finished the last video, I did some framing and I said, oh, I can make another video and show my fully finished items. Well, you know, here we are 4 months later. Better late than ever. So you've seen these finished, but you've not seen them fully finished. So the first one is, and this one's fully finished, but not really. I'll show you why after. This is Quaker Garden by Blackbird Designs. And I'm gonna hold it straight up so you can see. This is stitched with the called for materials. This is an old Blackbird Designs pattern. Rumor is it might be reprinted. Right now it is out of print. And I am tickled pink. I'm tickled pink, I'm tickled blue, I'm tickled white, I'm tickled green with how this came out. So I did put Barb's initials in there because this was one of her designs and she did pass away while I was stitching this. And I am ecstatic I found a frame to fit this. This was one of those frames at the craft store that had something else in it. And I brought my tape measure and I measured it and I said, this is gonna fit exactly. So I took it apart and I stretched Quaker Garden and it fit right in. And I said, it's not quite fully finished because I need to put some mat board or something to secure it in. So that's what my back looked like when it was laced. And this is what it looks like now. And I really love how it came out. This was kind of a struggle piece for me for a while, and I'm really glad I stuck with it. And like I said, I just love looking at it. I think it came out really, really nice. So, and I'm so happy I found this frame because the frame was like $12. How much would a custom frame cost me this size? A lot more than $12. So that's one. Two, I love this one. This is Kathy Barrick. I want to say it was a 2020 market release. I didn't bring the chart because I have it here. AH to EH, I think it may have been the name of the chart. It is a Richarsdon Sampler. I stitched this on Seraphim Fabrics. This is old stationery. It's a 40 count, and I stitched it with a old Vicki Clayton hand-dyed fiber silk called Legacy Blue, and she is still, now she's doing silks again, so you can get this. And I personalized it for our family. I put my husband and my initials in there, and the other initials I did everyone in the house, my kids, myself, my husband, and our last initial. And I really love how that came out. And you can really, you know, you can have a beautiful, something beautifully framed and not spend a lot on it. This was a $5 clearance frame. Just happened to fit. So love it. Still need to back that one too. So I guess not really fully finished. 75% fully finished. This one is fully finished. This one is the only one that has glass in it. So you're gonna see if I can do it without the reflection here. This is Rosewood Manor. This is Red Rhapsody, I think. This was also 2020, I believe, market release, maybe in 2021. I stitched this on 36 count Picture This Plus in vellum, and I used a sulky thread, one strand, called Red Work, and I love how this came out. I modified this a little bit because I took out, there was a section between here and the bottom border, but I knew if I took it out, I could fit it into the square frame. So I did, and I am tickled red with how this one came out. So once again, just another frame off of clearance, and really, really happy with that. So this is the start of my red wall, I guess. Everyone's got to have a red sampler wall. This one is fully finished. And what I did for these, for the mat board, is I went to Michael's and I gave them the size I wanted and they cut it for me, and I just paid for the foam core. Much easier than cutting it myself at home or waiting for my husband to cut it, because in all honesty, I cannot cut straight lines. So I'm usually waiting for him and it gets put off. So little tip, if you go to any place that does framing and you want to buy some foam core, give them the size and they'll cut you for it. And it was like a couple of bucks. So I will be doing that again. I am going to pause. I now need to like take care of that stuff, and I'll be right back with finishes. It'll be a second for you, a little longer for me. I have 3 finished cross stitch items to share with you. The stitching is completed on all 3 of these. They are not fully finished, so they're not framed, but they're finished for now. All 3 of these I love. 2 of them are really big finishes. I cannot tell you which one's my favorite, because just like I have 3 children who are my favorite, these 3 finishes are all my favorite. So the very first one, let me put something behind it is this little beauty right here. This is No House Without a Mouse by Blackbird Designs. And I stitched this on 36 count vellum by Picture This Plus with 2 strands of Vicky Clayton silk in the color Primitive Black. And I love how this came out. It was such a fun stitch. This was a chart that was loaned to me by a friend. Unfortunately, it is out of print and kind of hard to find. And I am very thankful she lent it to me because I've been wanting to stitch it. And like I said, it was just such a fun stitch. I have an idea of how I want to finish it. Haven't finished it yet, but I do have an idea. But right now it's stitched, and until I have the time to track down when I need to finish it, it will sit in the pile with everything else. But once again, No House Without a Mouse. Love it. Blackbird has been reprinting a lot of old charts, so hopefully that will be one of them, because I know a lot of people want to stitch it and I can see why. So hopefully that will be reprinted as well at some point. So the next piece I don't have to actually show you because it's back in its home. And every time I try to talk about it, I try to give more information. And I don't want to give a ton of information here. There's going to be more about the sampler at the end of the video, a little TED Talk. But here is the sampler. This is Mary Richarsdon, 1765 is the date on the sampler. And I was contacted by the Arlington, Massachusetts Historical Society sometime during the pandemic, and they asked if I would be interested in reproducing a sampler. And I said, yes, please. And then afterwards I said, I have no idea how to do this. I said that to myself, not to them. But I got in touch with my friend Lynette, who is homesteading on the home front, who has reproduced samplers, and asked if she would be interested. And she said, yes, I'd love to reproduce it, but I don't want to stitch it. And I said, I would love to stitch it, but I don't want to reproduce it. So perfect. We met with them. They have a fantastic collection. So I'm hoping that we will be able to reproduce more of their samplers. But they wanted this one reproduced because it's the oldest in their collection and it has direct ties to the American Revolution. So Mary Richarsdon, I'm just going to read you the verse on it because it's really hard to read. It is a band sampler and it's in the English style. It was stitched with silk on linen. I stitched it with DMC that we matched up to the colors as accurately as we could on a 28 count natural linen. The verse says, Mary Richarsdon is my name, and with my needle I wrote the same. I was born in Cambridge, June the 10th, 1753, and made the sampler March 1765 in 12 years of my age. When friends are gone and money spent, then learning is excellent. So the plan of the Historical Society is to have this sampler available for purchase, likely as a PDF and as a kit in the shop. And as information is available, I will let you know. And there was a little TED Talk at the end of the video about how Mary is important and how this Historical Society and home is important to the American Revolution. So sometimes life happens. I was editing and I realized that my biggest finish, not going to say my favorite finish because once again, I don't have favorites, just like I don't have favorite children. My biggest finish somehow didn't make it in. Either didn't record or I deleted it by mistake. Don't know, but needed to pop on a little bit of different setting because we're just getting it done. Permanent of Copenhagen, 1830, otherwise known as my green blanket. I have been working on this since 2006, I think, maybe 2007. I didn't work on it continuously. It went away for a good long period of time. Pulled it out in 2016, I think, and been working on it since. I'm going to put a picture in of where it was at the beginning of this year, 2022. And I'm going to put a couple of pictures in of me putting the very last stitches in, which was recorded by Helen D at the Frugal Yankee Gathering, and of me holding it. And I'm going to hold it here. Need to have this in a video. So there we go. Actually, this is better than if the original, because with this angle I can get almost all of it in. This was stitched on 32 count Zweigart linen 2/2 with DMC 934. And in case you were wondering, it took about 21 skeins of floss to stitch the sampler. The color fabric is either mocha or cappuccino. I can never remember. It is one of the DMC stock Zweigart fabrics, not DMC, one of the stock Zweigart fabrics. So here's the bottom part that I just finished this year, and I am so in love with this. I made a few modifications. So in the center there, I have Eve and Evelyn. I stitched Eve first, who was on the right, and I loved her so much. I decided to take Adam out and put Evelyn in. So I just flipped Eve and stitched her into Evelyn. The bottom corner here matched up. That was the last corner, and like I was shaking when I got there because I have been stitching this for decades, and if the border didn't match up, I would have cried, but it matched up. So modifications, Eve and Evelyn, and the initials J and S I put in. My grandmother passed away this year. That's her initial S, and my grandfather is J. They're together now, so I wanted them together on here. And the other modification I made is in the center motif, I put our family's initials, my husband and I, and our 3 children. So it is done. I'm gonna hold it up again. I miss stitching on it, believe it or not. Loved working on it. Would highly recommend a permanent Copenhagen sampler for anybody to stitch. I need to measure it and order a frame so I can frame it and put this baby on the wall. This and Modern Folk Embroidery I need to order frames for. Modern Folk Embroidery stitch along from 2021 that I finished because they don't fit in regular size frames. So one last time, and you won't see this again until it's framed. Sorry for the discombobulation of the video and the work part of the library, but this needed its own few minutes. So that was my biggest finish ever. Back to your regularly scheduled Flosstube video. WIPS, or works in progress, or this could be called a new start parade. You name it. Choose your own title here. I have been practicing stitch what you want when you want this year. I had a couple of goals I wanted to meet. One was finishing that sampler because I needed to get back to the Historical Society. 2 was to finish the green blanket, and it's done. So other than that, I've just been stitching whatever the mood strikes me. And I haven't really limited my new starts. In the past couple of years, I've really tried to decrease my WIP count. And right now, my WIP count's not bothering me. So I'm getting finishes. I'm making really good progress on some big projects, and I'm just enjoying my stitching, and it's a good place to be. So let's get started. If I have before pictures, I will put them in. I think I do for everything that's not a new start. I was kind of looking through before I filmed the video. So let's go. I don't even know what, these are all mixed in. New starts, WIPs, I just piled them up. So we're just going to take off the top and we're going to go from there. So my first one is my Heaven and Earth Designs full coverage design. This is called A Place of Her Own, and I'll put the cover picture in, and I will put where it was before. This has been a lot of fun to stitch. I had said I kind of wanted to try to do 22,000 stitches in 2022. Just after I said I didn't make any goals. But I kind of said, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I need to do my tally, but I think I'm at like 7,000 or 8,000 stitches for the year. I just kind of pick it up when I want to work on it, and I'm really enjoying it. So I think that's looking really good. Like any full coverage design, you kind of need to view it from a distance to see all the details. But I am having fun stitching it, and that's all that matters. And I'm seeing progress. So this is 25 count even weave, and it's stitched with a called for DMC, 1 strand of floss over 1 square, or 1 over 1. I've been using Pattern Keeper for that, and it really has been a game changer because it changes it from, oh my God, what am I stitching, to basically like paint by number. And it is kind of fun to stitch with Pattern Keeper. So if you've wanted to try full coverage and you know, you weren't sure, try Pattern Keeper. It's only available on Android devices, but it really makes stitching full coverage fun. Next is a new start. So this is another pattern that is out of print. It's a primitive needle. It's my working copy. Tombstone spots. So let me pull it out so you can see it. So like I said, this is my working copy. This is a photocopy, so the cover photo isn't that great to begin with. But it's really cool. So I am stitching this with my friend Julie, Kansas City girl, and a Colorado World, and somebody else who I can't remember. But if I tried to look it all up, I would never make this video, so we're just making the video. So I am stitching it with the called for fibers, which are mostly weeks. And I'm stitching it on 36 count Boston, which is a Seraphim Fabrics. So these are mostly like grays, greens, and browns. And I have a teeny tiny start. Actually, this might be 40 count Boston from Seraphim Fabrics. Certain designs I try to stitch with the called for. Like I feel like primitive needle. If I can, I stitch it. And this is all I have started. Like I stitched on it, I think 1 day, maybe 2. I would like to get back to that. I was missing a few colors of floss, so I had to switch out for something else, and then I didn't go back to it. But stitch what I want when I want, and I'm looking at it and I want to stitch on it. So once again, that's my start. Fibers, and once again, the chart. I have discovered that I love floss rings. Like having my floss on rings makes my soul happy. And it doesn't have to be fancy floss, like even DMC makes me happy. This is another new start. I took everything out of the bag except for this one. So this is Heart and Hand. This is Big Hearted Tiny Town. How cute are these tiny towns? Like there seems to be one coming for like every season, and they're adorable. So I'm stitching this with a mix of called for and some of the called for fancy floss. Once again, floss ring, making me happy. And DMC. And I made a few substitutions. So let me show you. I picked this up when I was stitching at my friend Pam's shop, Stitch New England. Because when she gets something new in, you're like, yes, please. So I had to buy it and I had to stitch it. And this is what I have stitched so far. Gosh, I'm really out of practice. Granted, this fabric's very wrinkly. So this is what I have so far. So I am stitching this on, the fabric color isn't really showing. It's a Belfast linen in the color lilac. So it's very purple. It's like a sweet tart purple, which is why I made the hill green, because I love green sweet tarts. I love purple sweet tarts. I love pink sweet tarts. So that is all I have. But it's not a big design. I would love to finish it so I can have it up for next. There we go. That looks good. Next Valentine's Day. It was a fun little start. So, and I have in the bag like some of the DMC I'm using too. Are we keeping track of new starts? Probably shouldn't, but that's 2. Next one's a WIP. So this one is Peacock, Unicorn, and Badger by the Scarlet Letter. And I gotta be honest, the first time I stitched on this, which was 2020, didn't touch it at all in 2021. I liked it, but I wasn't in love with it. And I was feeling the desire to stitch it. I'll put a picture in of where I was after the first time before where I was when I pulled it out this year. I could not put it down when I was stitching on it this year. Loved it, and I'm like craving getting back to it now. Floss on Floss tags, making me happy. These are the DMC. It is charted in silk, and I am using the DMC conversion. There is a DMC conversion given, and that's what I'm stitching it with. And I am stitching it on a 40 count mallow linen 1/2 with 1 strand of floss over 2 strands of linen. And how adorable is that? Like, it is so, the colors are so amazing. Like, the picture does not give it justice. So I'll put this here so I can put the other one in so you can see. But I couldn't put this down. Like, I had so much fun stitching it. And I am looking forward to getting back to it. Colors are amazing. Like, the picture on the chart does not give it justice. And I'm willing to make a bet that even on the screen, it doesn't look quite as vivid and bright as it does in person. So, such a fun stitch. If you've been questioning, like, should I do it, should I not? Such a fun stitch. I would highly recommend it. My only regret is that I didn't do it on 20 count Aida. The bottom part, I'll show you, has some satin stitch on it. You can see it with the swan and that bird is. But in all honesty, like, I think I'm gonna just cross stitch the bottom because I don't love doing satin stitch. So why do it? If I did it on 20 count Aida, like, I could have just, it's full coverage and it would have been nice and easy to see. And I mean, the 40 count's not bad. I love 40 count, but that's my one regret with doing this. So if you're thinking about doing this, like, treat it as a full coverage design, especially if you don't want to do the satin stitch. Next, I have 2 new starts. Not 1, but 2. First one, I'm going to throw a picture in of it because I do not have a color printout. This is one of the Modern Folk Embroidery most recent releases. It might be the most recent release. I don't even know what the name of it is off the top of my head, but it'll be in the picture. I'm calling it the Modern Folk Red Deer Sampler. And my friend Becky and I were like, we got to stitch it. So we started it, the Frugal Yankees, and I got a whopping start, big start. I am looking forward to getting back to it though. I had a few issues stitching it. This is a project that is not suitable for Aida because some of the stitches are off center. So, like, they're between stitches. So you kind of need to stitch it on a linen or an even weave. And that was one of the problems I had when I was stitching it because I didn't realize that initially when I was reading the chart. So I had to go rip out and put the stitches in the correct spot so that everything lined up. But There we are. This is 40 count linen. I'm stitching it with the call for DMC. The linen is from Be Stitch Me, and it's called Vintage. This was a fabric of the month a while ago. I have ended my Be Stitch Me fabric of the month because I have a ton of her linens and I love them. And it was just time to try out a different dyer. But I highly recommend her linens. And I have bought a few since I have left the Fabric of the Month Club. So my friend Becky is probably almost done. She says she can't put it down. So I need to pick it back up. I was thinking, like, in my head, I was thinking I wanted to maybe change out the color of linen. But now that I'm looking at it, I really like it. So let me know what you think. The next new start, we're at 4 because I am counting, is, I'm going to butcher this, Reflet de Soie, and it is Marie Cornu. I love this sampler. So my friend Angela, Food and Yarn, had wanted to start a French girl for her birthday this year. And I said, yes, please. Because as we know, I love new starts and stitch alongs or start alongs. I will do it with anybody. So this was the one I picked out. She's any French sampler. And I loved all the animals on this. I love the colors. It's called for silks. I'm stitching it in the DMC. And the colors are fantastic, the DMC conversion. So once again, Marie Cornu, and I'm stitching it on 40 count platinum, which is like one of my favorite neutral linens. And here's my start. How beautiful are those colors? Let me put this behind it so you can see a little bit better. Like, wow, so pretty. And this is my first Reflet de Soie chart, and the charts are very easy to read. Like, her charting is really, really good. And once again, this was a really fun stitch. Like that bird, I've had a lot of fun stitching. And I'm dying to pick this one up again. So 40 count platinum, 1/2. My stuff is falling. 1/2 on 40 count. And I started the Modern Folk Embroidery and Marie Cornu about the same time. And even though floss tags make me happy, so I probably should have done floss tags, what I did instead, they actually share some of the same colors, is I put both of their colors in this little box. And I have little notes up there about what they share and what they don't. They're very similar color schemes. So if they don't actually share the color, it's very close, because that way if I wanted to lighten or darken up a color on either one, the colors are right here in this box. So they're living together. They're in a happy marriage. My French girl and my Dutch sampler are in a happy, I think the Modern Folk Embroidery one's Dutch. French girl and the Dutch sampler, which is, I guess that one's a he in my mind, are living very happily together in a project bag with their floss. So let's move on to the next pile, because this pile already fell. I'm going to take care of them and I'll be right back. Last pile of WIPs. The bad news is this video is taking me like all day to film and will take me forever to edit, which is fine because sometimes I like editing. It's kind of fun to do. The good thing is because I am pausing between all these parts, I am putting everything away. So I'm not gonna have a mess to pick up after this video, which if you make Flosstube videos, you know that the mess after you make a video is probably the worst part of making Flosstube videos, but picking up after myself right now. So I am gonna thank past Amy when this is done. Last pile here. Remember, we had 4 new starts from that last pile of WIPs. Said I wasn't gonna keep track, but I'm keeping track. Next one is a new start. I'll put a picture of it in here, what it will look like when it's done. It is from Stitches Through the Years on Etsy. I love her charts. Like, they remind me a little bit of Blackbird because they're just, I don't know. I love the colors. I love her designs. She doesn't have a lot of charts, but I love what she has. I picked this as a snow day start to do, and I only worked on it a couple of times, but we didn't get a lot of snow this year either. So I am using maybe like 2 of the called for. I have 1 fancy floss called for, a couple of DMC called for, and then I went through my color and cotton floss and substituted for, you know, just what looked good. It's a gorgeous piece of fabric. I've been doing this for a while. Fabric. Gorgeous piece of fabric. This is Fiber on a Whim. I don't remember the color, but it's 40 count and it's really, really pretty. And that's my start. 1/2. Those are the colors. And the name of the chart will be up with the picture. I think it might be called Silent Night. I'm calling it Winter in my head, but I don't think that's the actual name of the chart. So, and I love the colors on this fabric. So Fiber on a Whim is a new dyer to me because Stitch New England carries the fabric. And if you have a local needle workshop, like, go. So I'm lucky enough now to have 2 near me. And when you can go and see fabric and feel it and see the fibers, like, it makes such a big difference. So that's my start. This is not a big chart, but I don't see it being done anytime soon because it's a winter chart and I'm a little bit of a seasonal stitcher. Next is a WIP. This is Wicked Christmas by Sarah Gunami. She's an Italian designer. And I love this, like Halloween and Christmas together. I am stitching this on 20 count Aida with the called for DMC. And there isn't a ton of progress since the last time I worked on it, but I did work on it, so I figured I would show it to you. And I think I'm going to pull this out to work on this week because I'm going to Celebrations of Needlework in Nashua, New Hampshire at the end of the week, and I can outline this cloud for fill-in. And that would be perfect to fill in when I am visiting with people. So this is the last time you saw it. I'll put up a picture of where it was. I didn't do much. Like, I worked on this tree and down here. But this is a really fun stitch. I think I said 20 count Vintage Country Mocha linen. And yeah, it's a big project. I'm gonna hold it up. Like, I don't do many smalls, as we know, but very fun to stitch. And I think I'm going to be working on that this week. Next, this should be a finish. Feel free to yell at me and say, Amy, please finish that, because I'm sick of seeing it. This is Mirabilia Halloween Fairy. This is one of my legacy WIPs, meaning it is from when I first started cross stitching. It's more than 10 years old. This was the last project I worked on before I stopped stitching for, I don't know, 5 years. And here's where it is, being blown out a little bit because it's getting really bright in here because the day is moving on. But she's so close to being done. All I have left is that wing, a little back stitch, and some beading. And even though this is a Mirabilia, there is not a lot of beading on this. She's gorgeous. So maybe she'll be finished by the next time. I keep telling myself I work on her just 30 minutes a day, she'll be done in a couple of weeks. So I really need to do that. This is not stitched. This is one of those, you could still buy this on 123. It's a kit. You cannot buy just the chart. I am using the floss, which is fancy floss that came with, but I substituted out the fabric. It comes with a natural fabric, and I'm using an even weave, and it's opalescent, which isn't really showing up in camera, but I loved this purple. So this is my closest to a finish. I would really like to finish it, but I need to stitch on it to finish it. So we'll see. Next is a new start. Humming of the Bees from Blackbird Designs. This was a market release this year, 2022. Nashville Needlework Market in March. And I love this. Love it, love it, love it. It just, that house, the border, the peacock, like, here's it without the writing of it. I love it. So I started it. I am using most of the call for floss, most of it. I did substitute in some color and cotton. So just beautiful colors, right? I'm stitching it on 40 count Old Stationery by Seraphim Fabrics. Hold on, I'll put this behind so you can see. I need to be like all professional floss tube and get a board where I can clip my stuff on. Maybe when I'm grown up. So, and this is all I have started, which is the border. So 40 count Old Stationery by Seraphim Fabrics. This is the other piece of fabric that the Kathy Bear Quaker, other piece of that fabric. I did Kathy Bear Quaker, was on like a fat eighth, and this is the other piece of it. Oh, look at those colors. Gorgeous. And let me bring it up close so you can see what I've done. Mostly just the border. And filling it in. Oh, that's the back. So if you want to see my back, that's what the back looks like. Let me turn it around so you can see the front. There we go. That's the front. The front looks better. The back doesn't look bad, but the front looks better. There we go. Love it. Oh, I want to stitch on this again. How many times have I said that? Every project, I want to stitch on it again. Just look at those colors. So, and I was watching, I think, Jessie Marie the other day. She was talking about backs. Like, I'll show you my back on this. Like, I don't carry. My general rule on something on light colored fabric is if it's more than 2 stitches worth of stitching, I don't carry. So I don't go more on a linen. I won't go more than 4 linen threads usually. So it's a lot of starting and stopping, but I'm also not a fast stitcher. And this is a good size piece, but it's not huge. So now that I have the front of it, let me pull the fabric again, the colors again, so that you can actually see the front, the stitches, not the back of it. Really pretty. This has been a fun stitch. Stitching this one in hand. I'm not one of those always needs to be a Q-snap, always needs to be a hoop, or always in hand stitcher. I'm kind of whatever the mood strikes, or whatever works for me on that piece. Next one. New start. 4, 5, 6, 7. I finished a Permin, so I need to start a Permin. This is Permin of Copenhagen. This is Adam and Eve Sampler. This was my unicorn chart for a while because it was out of print, and you can only buy it as a kit. It was re-released, and I'm like, I need it. So my friend Kristen wanted to stitch it as well. She's like, I have it and I gotta stitch it. So we started it together at our Frugal Yankee get together. Oh, and she crashed the Deer Sampler too, which is great. We called it, I haven't been posting to Instagram very much, but the Deer Sampler from Modern Folk Embroidery, we're calling it, oh dear, not another BAP. Stitch along. If I post on Instagram, I'll have to use the hashtag. So, I mean, love this. Not many, like, I haven't seen many people finish it. Abby Bella Stitch finished it. It's gorgeous. And can't lie, her colors are my inspiration. I'm not using the kit. Like, I bought this and I'm not using the floss or the fabric. So I probably will sell it when I'm done. I am using Anchor Floss. I had a silk I wanted to use. It was a hand-dyed fiber. I didn't have enough of it. It's my old stash. So I ordered new silk in the same color, and it doesn't match, which, like, I mean, that's on me, because 10 years, I don't expect the dye lot to be the same. But me being me, I didn't check until right before we were going to start the sampler. So I didn't have enough silk. So I went looking for floss colors. I pulled out my fabric. This is all rolled up. I went looking for fabric, and I found this this fabric in my stash, and I love it. I'll pull it out and show it to you. It's a silk weaver. I thought it was a 46 count. I'm like, it's going to fit perfectly. No, it's a 40 count. So this is all the way across the top. We're playing a little bit of border chicken there. A little bit. It fits, right? I mean, we get 1.5 inches on each side, maybe 2 over here, 1.5 inches on this side. It's fine. I frame my own stuff. I frame it close. I can sew fabric on it. It did fit. But look at this fabric. And I wanted this color red, and I didn't have enough silk. So I was looking at DMC, and I couldn't really find the right color to match up. I went to Michael's, and I saw the Anchor floss there, and Anchor 20 on the spool is the color red I wanted. So it is a gorgeous red. It's not deeper than what's showing. That's about right color-wise. And it's nice to stitch with. I have stitched with Anchor in the past. I've never used the stuff on the spool. It's nice. Anchor 20 red. I'm looking at the fabric color for you. Silk Weaver. Hazelnut Newcastle. It's a gorgeous color combination. Ugh. So pretty. And this is almost square, so I will have plenty of fabric in the other direction. So don't be Amy and not check your fabric and silk until like 2 days before you're going to start. We'd planned to start out for like a year, but it worked out because I'm really happy with the combination that I have. So this, when it's done, will go on the red sampler wall. And I really am enjoying having a perming going, and I do have another perming waiting in the wings. Once I finish this, I'll pop it in. I only want to have one perming going at a time because their charts are a commitment, but they are so much fun to stitch. So check them out. They have a lot of charts, and yeah, actually I lied. I might be starting a perming later this year, but we'll see when that happens. But I've been wanting to start this for a long time, and I'm so glad I finally did. So I love it. Last WIP, and it is a WIP. I'll put a picture in here because I don't have a good picture. This is Exemplar Dames is the name of the designer, and the name of the design is And They Send. This is like 3 feet long. Group of us frugal Yankees started it together. Kat finished it in less than a year. So people who say this is not like finishable, Kat started in January and she finished in September. So she's a rock star, and it looks gorgeous. This is my start. I did not finish in 2021. I pulled this out and I started stitching over here. There's the big cloud. People call it the cloud of doom. I started outlining it so I can fill it in and stitch the snake. I am stitching this on 40 count vintage country mocha linen, and I did my own conversion of mostly Victoria Motto sampler threads, and I'm also just changing and putting DMC in as I'm stitching if I don't like the color I chose. So this is a total go with the flow type of chart. And yeah, I've been craving working on it. It's a fun stitch because it's so quirky. I mean, there's so many motifs. Like look at the snake, look at the cherub. But the chart, it is not a hand-drawn chart. It is a computer generated chart, but it's an early one. So it's a little bit, it's not printed very big. So I was having a hard time reading the chart because my vision is not amazing. I finally brought it to Kinko's and blew it up really big. So now I can see it and stitch on it without having an issue. So stop babbling, but you can see this, the cloud, and the cloud comes all the way around. But, and they send by Exemplar Daves. This chart is still available. And that's the colors. Oh, so pretty. And this is, I'm not a huge scroll rod stitcher. This is about as wide as I like to go with a scroll rod. So because this is on a linear half of linen, I pull out the scroll rod for this. But you know, you do you. Whatever makes you happy, how it works for you stitching, do it. And that is the end of the WIPs. Got through it. I have no idea how long this video is because it's in many clips, but like I said, I'll do timestamps. And I am loving my stitching. I know I have a bunch of new starts, but I'm loving my new starts. I'm loving my WIPs. I just am really enjoying stitching right now, which is a really good place to be. I'm enjoying reading. I'm enjoying my family. So I'm really lucky and blessed, and I am just really enjoying things right now. I'm enjoying the weather because it's spring and it's no longer winter in New England. Although we kind of skipped spring and went to summer. Haul, like I said, I am not going to talk about what I've added to my collection because we'd be here another day. I did mention that I had dropped out of the Be Stitch Me Fabric of the Month Club. I have a good collection of her linens. I enjoy stitching on them. I highly recommend them. I've ordered a few other pieces. I did join Leslie's Under the Sea Fabric Club last year. She opened it up for a little bit, so I grabbed a spot, and I'm enjoying her linens. Maybe the next video I'll show you some of the linens I got. She doesn't dye every month. It's like every 2 out of 3 months. And I do really enjoy her linens. And she does, if you ever have the chance to hop in her club, it's definitely worthwhile because the way that she does it is she does test dyes and she posts them, and then you can choose what you want. So you're not locked into, say, 40 count linen or 18 count Aida. You can see how it dyes in the different fabrics and what it looks like, and let her know what color, what count, and what type of fabric you want. Because as we know, fabric dye is very different on different fabric, on whether it's Aida, even weave, or linen. So I've really enjoyed that. At the Frugal Yankee get together, one of the Frugal Yankees brought a piece of, what is it, treehouse fabric, treehouse linens, relatively new dyer. It's gorgeous. They have a Fabric of the Month Club that's quarterly. I grabbed a spot. The first piece comes in July, and when that comes, I will show it to you. There are so many great fabric dyers out there, and like I said, if you can make it to a needle workshop, support them. Please go to your local needle workshop, support them, look at the fabrics. And it's so nice to be able to see and feel fabrics. I have a little bit of a fabric obsession, as we know. That's it. I hope everybody is doing well. I've missed everybody, and thank you so much. I'm going to put my TED Talk after this. And happy stitching, everybody. And I look forward to being back in less than 4 months. Have a wonderful May, everybody. Bye. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about that sampler that I stitched for the Arlington Historical Society. Little history lesson here. So the sampler was stitched by Mary Richarsdon. Mary Richarsdon lived between 1753 and 1814. It was stitched with silk on linen, and it was stitched in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1765. It is the oldest sampler in the collection of the Arlington Historical Society. I'm going to read to you the little blurb that they have they gave me about Mary. Mary is the earliest sampler in the Society's collection, and in its style is typical of many 18th century samplers, given its elongated proportions, narrow bands filled with text and variety of decorative patterns, all keeping with the English models. The text reads, "Mary Richardson is my name, and with my needle I wrote the same. I was born in Cambridge, June the 10th, 1753, and made the sampler March 1765 in the 12 years of my age. When friends are gone and money spent, then learning is excellent." Mary's parents were Moses Richardson and Mary Prentice. Her father died fighting the British in Cambridge on April 19th, 1775, which was the Battle of Lexington and Concord. Her husband, William Russell, was imprisoned for 33 months in England for his part in the Colonial Rebellion. So during the British retreat from Lexington and Concord, they went from Concord through Lexington and Cambridge back to Boston. 50 Americans were either, well, at that point they were colonists, were either killed or mortally wounded. And the Arlington Historical Society is on the route that they walked by. It's called the Jason Russell House. And the sampler chart should be on, it should be, they're hoping to sell it this year with a PDF, which would be really cool. But the Jason Russell House is really cool. If you're local, I would highly recommend going. There are actually something like 10 bullet holes from the retreat from that day, British bullet holes in the house still. You know, just kind of labeled like, oh yeah, this is where it happened. They had ballistics people come in and check it out, and yeah, they're British musket holes. So really, really cool. Very neat part of American history and New England history. And I stitched Mary on 28 count natural linen with DMC that we matched up to the silk. So that's Mary. Works out whether or not we're going to do more or not, but we really enjoyed doing this, and I think it was a really fun and cool endeavor. So that's my TED Talk on Mary Richardson and the Arlington Historical Society.